Okay, so you've definitely played the board game, right? But in the real world, Monopoly doesn't come with a get-out-of-jail-free card. Nope. It's this incredibly powerful economic force that can dictate prices, limit your choices, and today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how a market king is made.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Something as basic as water, right? You probably have exactly one choice, your local utility. But for a smartphone, you've got dozens of options. So what's the deal with that? Well, the answer to that question gets right to the heart of what a monopoly really is. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack here.
So let's get on the same page. What is a monopoly, technically speaking? It's a very specific kind of market, and the name itself, monopoly, pretty much gives it away. It literally means one seller. Yeah, it really just boils down to three key things. First, you've got a single seller. That's the mono part. Second, what they're selling is a unique product. And third, and this is crucial, there are no close substitutes. You can't just easily hop over to a competitor because there aren't any. You get all three of those, and you've just handed one company an incredible amount of market power. But that kind of begs the question, right? How does a company even become the one and only? It's not an accident. A monopolist has to build a fortress around its market using what economists call barriers to entry. These are walls designed to keep any and all challenges out.
And these barriers, these walls, they come in a few different flavors. Sometimes you have a natural monopoly, where it's just way more efficient for one firm to do the job. Think about that single water company again. Or a company might just seize control of a physical resource. Imagine one company owning, say, all the diamond mines in the world. Then there are legal monopolies, which are actually created by the government through things like patents on new drugs or copyrights on movies. And well, sometimes it's just good old-fashioned intimidation and predatory practices, basically muscling everyone else out of the way.
You know, this isn't some newfangled concern. Even an industrial giant like Henry Ford saw the writing on the wall. He knew the danger monopolies pose to regular people, to consumers. And that built-in conflict, the company's interest versus the customer's, is exactly why this is so important to understand. So, the fortress is built, the walls are up. Now what? How does the king rule from inside? Well, a monopolist's real power comes from its totally unique relationship with demand. It doesn't just respond to the market. For all intents and purposes, it is the market. In this slide right here, this nails the difference perfectly. A small-time farmer, right? They're a price taker. They have to accept whatever the going rate is for their wheat. But a monopolist? Oh no, they're a price maker. They face the entire market's demand curve all by themselves, which means they get to set the terms. But here's the catch. Here's the monopolist's big dilemma. If they want to sell just one more widget, they can't just give a discount to that one customer. Nope. They have to lower the price on every single widget they sell. And that means the extra cash they get from selling that extra one, what economists call marginal revenue, is always going to be less than the actual price tag on the item. And you can really see this play out on a graph. See that top line? That's the demand curve. That's the price people are willing to pay. But that bottom line, the marginal revenue curve, that shows what the company actually gets in its pocket for each extra sale. And that gap between what you'll pay and what they'll make, that is the secret to their entire strategy.
So, how does a monopolist use this unique position? Well, like any business, the goal is pretty simple. Make as much profit as possible. And to do that, there's a golden rule. It's a rule that applies to every single firm out there, whether they're a giant monopoly or a tiny little shop. And here it is, the golden rule. You keep on producing just as long as the extra money you make from one more sale, your marginal revenue, is more than what it cost you to make that extra item, your marginal cost. The absolute sweet spot for profit, it's right where those two things are exactly equal. MR equals MC. That's the magic formula. All right, so finding this sweet spot on a graph might look a little intimidating, but I promise you it's really just a simple three-step dance. Let's walk through it. It's this simple. 1, find where that magic formula happens, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. 2, from that point, you go straight up until you hit the demand curve. And 3, you just go straight across to find the price. Let's watch it happen. Okay, here we go. We add our marginal cost curve, and there it is. See that? Right where it crosses the marginal revenue curve. That's our spot. That's our golden rule. MR equals MC. So now we just drop a line straight down from that intersection. And boom, that gives us our profit maximizing quantity, QM. So that's step 1.
The monopolist now knows exactly how many units it should produce.
But what price do they charge? Now this is the really cool part. They don't use the price from that MR equals MC intersection. Oh no, instead they travel straight up from their quantity all the way to the demand curve. Why? Because the demand curve tells them the absolute highest price you, the consumer, are willing to pay for that amount. Then they just shoot a line straight across, and there it is. That's their monopoly price, PM. So let's just recap that master plan real quick. The monopolist uses that golden rule, MR equals MC, to figure out its production level. That's an internal decision. But then it uses the demand curve to set the price for the public, charging the absolute max we're all willing to pay. It's a pretty brilliant two-step to lock in the most profit possible.
So there you have it. The monopolist has played the game perfectly to maximize its own bottom line. But that leaves us with the biggest, most important question of all. Is an outcome with higher prices and fewer goods for sale, is that really the best result for the rest of society? That tension between a company's profit and the public's well-being, that's the central debate around monopolies, and definitely something to think about the next time you realize you only have one choice. Thanks for joining us.